Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna do two looks, two palettes kind of a video. I have two Colourpop palettes and I'm getting ready to do a ranking video. So I have three palettes that I've never used, and there's one that I'm kind of like not in a hurry to use. So we're gonna use these today so that I can properly put them in that ranking video. And then the third one probably will just be the palette that's on the bottom, but I have 20 Colourpop palettes exactly, so I figured it was a good time to do a ranking video. But yeah, I've never used the Star Wars, and I've never used the brand new Hocus Pocus palette. This is their third one. So yeah, I'm gonna do a look on each eye with, up the palette, so hopefully that doesn't bother you. But yeah, that's what we're gonna be doing today. If that sounds interesting, stick around, make sure you're subscribed, and we're gonna jump into the We're in a little bit closer. I primed with my Gerard Clean Canvas eye base. It's my favorite. It's a little bit of a wetter eye primer, and you can use concealer to get the same effect. And like this, it says you could use it as concealer if you wanted to, but it's a little bit thicker. I've never tried to put it under my eyes. My under eyes are a little bit, fine lined, crinkly, but it is a wetter base, so shadows are really going to stick to it. It's going to give you the most color payoff, but it does make it a little bit trickier to blend. So just FYI, but that's the benefit of using a wetter base. I have my color switch here because my brushes are not all clean, and I'm probably going to use the same brushes, honestly, for both palettes, but we're going to start off. We'll do Star Wars first, and we'll do Star Wars on this side, and then I'll reposition you a little better on the other side so you can see this eye a little bit better. But yeah, I bought this. I didn't get it right on launch. I wasn't super interested in it, and then decided I like the artwork that's on the inside of this. But there's the palette. Never used it. Any little like imperfections you see in here are just from shipping. Have not planned out a look. I'm going to go in with my Sigma E25. It's my favorite blending brush. I have two of them. I'm going to go in. I usually work darkest to lightest with most things now. I didn't used to do things like that, but lately that's been what I've been doing. Do I have a smaller brush than this? I'm going to go in with the black. This is just a generic dense brush. It says Shanna B on it, and it just says shadow brush. I'm going to go into the black. Star Destroyer is what it's called, but it's the only black in the palette. Tapping off a little bit, just because Colourpop shadows tend to be a little kick-uppy, which isn't bad, but the more kick-uppy they are, the more fallout you're going to get. So if you tap a little bit off, and I'm just putting some black, just like that, in the outer corner. I'm going to wipe that off. I don't know that I'll use that brush again, but whew, I may on the other side. I guess I'll leave out. I'm just going in with that E25, and I'm just trying to soften this a little bit. I do have hooded eyes, so that can make it a little bit challenging, but I want to see how the black performs. And then I'm going to go into Rebellion, which is the dark blue. I don't normally tap stuff off, but this stuff seems very, very powdery. And I'm going to drag this into the crease. And I put the black down, not necessarily because I wanted to be able to see the black. I put it down so that I could make sure we've got some good depth. This shadow seems pretty dark and pigmented on its own, as you can see me bringing it over into my crease where I don't have any shadow, but it's definitely darker where I plopped that black on there. So I'm just gonna clean my brush off, try and blend this out. I don't normally wear a lot of blue, but I've been kind of feeling like wearing blue lately. So we're going to use a little bit of the blue, and maybe the blue shimmer that's in here. And I just took a little bit extra because I want some more blue in the crease, but I don't necessarily want it as dark as what we've got in the outer corner. And then I'm just trying to blend that out. Okay. Is there another shade in here? Maybe Starfighter. It's a cooler, like taupey shade, but it's a little bit lighter than Alliance. Maybe we'll take a little bit of that to try and blend this out more, just a little bit. See what that does. I'm just tapping in the pan very, very lightly because I don't want a ton of it. But since we're doing blue and that's kind of a cooler toned, kind of taupey gray color, figured that might help with the blend a little bit. Okay, I think that's fine. So under the brow, I'm gonna put, and this is just on a pencil brush, Rebel Princess, which is the white. I like doing a shimmery brow bone. That's an older, like from like years ago trend. I still like it because I like sparkle. So if you did not want to use that, I would just get a matte shadow from another palette because this doesn't really have anything lighter than Starfighter. So you're not going to have a good highlighty shade in here if you don't want to use something that's sparkly. I just lost my brush. I saw it. The brush like fell over. Oh, there it is. It's a Morphe M107-2, and I'm just going to take some NYX glitter glue. I use this with all shimmers. The alternative to this would be spraying the shadow. I just never really got on. I don't know why. I've ruined palettes by wetting, you know, my brush ahead of time and going in. So I think that's why I don't like, and you can pick the shadow up and spray it when it's on. I just never got on with the trend because I wrecked a couple of palettes when my brush ended up being wet. So I just use the glitter glue, but you're essentially doing the same thing if you like to spray your shadows. So I'm going to try the Space Pirate shade. It's one of the marbled ones. It's the one in the lower corner that's got like the blue and stuff in it. Now it's not going to look like this on the lid. It's kind of gotten, it's kind of some gray and some purple. It's pretty. So we're going to put this all over, and then we'll put some of the other blue. It's got some like purple specks in it. It's got some blue, some silver. It's very sparkly and pretty, which is nice. And then the, excuse me, the blue is in Jedi Knight. I'm just going to take that on my finger, and that's going to kind of help blend between, I got some down here, which is fine, the black. And then I just flipped my brush over and I'm dragging that other shimmer into the blue to help blend that part out. But I'm happy with that. We're going to leave it like that. Okay. Clean my finger off. And then I'm going to go in with my favorite brush right now for lower lash is a Jessup little shader brush. I'm going to go in with the shimmery blue. We got a little bit under our eye, under my eye when I was doing the top anyway, which is fine. And I may take a little bit of the black just on top here, just about that far in, just a smidgen, just to deepen up this section down in here. And you could do the black first. I just wasn't 100% if I wanted to deepen that up, so I went with the shimmer first, but you could definitely do it in the reverse. And then same brush, I'm going to take that darker blue and just a little bit, I just like barely tapped in the pan. We're going to blend under. I like it pretty blown out. Part of that is because I do have like fine lines under my eyes. Back in with the shimmer, and it just, the farther down I go, the less lines I see. It kind of helps conceal my under eyes, if that makes sense. And I'm just going to grab a smaller fluffy brush. I saw one. Maybe this one. This is a Luxie. This isn't super small. I'm just going to make sure it's clean. But I'm going to go under. And then on that same brush, I'm going to go into Starfighter, which was that lightest taupe shade that we used, just to kind of help blow that out. But yeah, that's, if you like a more blown out look, that's an advantage, especially if you're a little bit older, because it's going to help cover up some things. And then for inner corner, these silvers look the same. There's Kessel Run, and Hyperdrive, and those don't look any different. Why are those both in here? So there's that one. I'm going to swatch them. Did we need both of those in this palette? To me, those look the same. I think this one's maybe a hair lighter. That's a little bit annoying. Clearly didn't look at this palette very closely, but yeah. A lot of these Colourpop palettes will, and it's not just Colourpop. I'm doing the lighter one, which is the Hyperdrive shade. We're just going to pop that into the crease. So yeah, that's pretty much it. A lot of brands, I've noticed when you get into palettes about this size or bigger, you start getting some overlap, repeat shades, all of that business. So yeah, I'm gonna clean my hand up and then we'll jump over to on the other side. I moved you over so that you could hopefully see a little bit better. Still annoyed that those silvers look the same. They wiped off my hand pretty easy. But I guess if you like silver and use a lot of silver, it's nice to have two. But anyways, okay. Moving on. We're going to use the Hocus Pocus palette. And I'm going to do, I never use purple. So maybe we'll use the purple. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the Star Wars look. I'm going to go in with the black just because I want to see how the black is. And it's called Till Midnight, but there's only one black shadow in here. I'm going to say right off the bat, I think the pigmentation of the black in the Star Wars palette is a little bit better. And I've noticed as far as collab palettes go, their collab palettes are usually pretty good, but I'm going to say like their Star Wars quality is probably the toppest notched quality if you're going to get a collab palette and you like the color stories of the Star Wars ones. Because the pigmentation, and I just have a clean, I'm using the same brushes that I used on the other side. So this is the E25. I'm just going to blend out the black just a hair because that'll just help me when I go in with the purple. And then I'm going to take the E25. I cleaned it off, and Observe is the dark purple from the bottom row. Yeah, the quality of the Star Wars palettes is like, I think the best quality out of all of their palettes, because I did a video where I compared the Sage the Day palette to the Child palette, and the pigmentation of some of the shadows in the Child palette was better. Not that the Sage palette was bad by any means, but some of the brown shades were definitely more intense in the Child palette. So I would say if you're looking as far as color story, because I'm one that my dad's really into Star Wars. I've never cared that much about it. I tend to get I think that's the only reason I bought the big Star Wars palette, because I have some kind of sentimentalness because of my dad. I'm a Star Trek fan, so don't come for me, but I don't necessarily buy the Star Trek palettes because they're Star Wars. I get them because I do have a little bit of nostalgia with Star Wars just because my dad is so fanatical. My dad likes both, but is equally fanatical. And then I'm going to go into Witch Hunters. It's in the second row. It's the only matte shade. I'm going to try and blend this out. But yeah, I tend to like I bought the Child palette just because it was a green palette. Like the artwork on it's very cute, but I have never seen The Mandalorian. So did not buy it because of that. I like, my husband's favorite color is green, so I tend to gravitate towards green. I like pink and like rosy shades, and my husband doesn't have a preference as far as like eyeshadows on me. I just tend to like, he likes green, so I'm going to wear green. But anyways, yeah, I bought that palette for the Color Story, not because it was Star Wars. But long story short, I will say if you're looking at palettes and you like the color stories of those, you won't be upset. Now the pigmentation on this one is good. I've heard the second one isn't as good. This one seems fine. I would compare it to the quality of the first one. I have all of them. I have all 3 Hocus Pocus palettes. And I'm going to go a little bit into the black again just because I feel like some of it... And I don't think I put it super well where my my eyes are slightly hooded, so some of that was my placement and not really the shadow. But this is definitely a grungier palette. I'm gonna go back in with the purple. I like that these are buildable. They're not overly pigmented right off of the bat. Like that to me is a little bit better. We went a little bit deeper. Not everybody wants super pigmented shadows right off the bat, just because it's going to make it harder to blend. So if you're not as experienced, not a super great blender, less pigment is going to be better. So I can appreciate that they're at least buildable, so that's nice. But yeah, the pigmentation, I'm going to say, just from the shades that I used in the Star Wars palette, there was more pigmentation, but it's also, some of it depends on shade. Some shades are easier to formulate than others, so that can be a factor too. And then I'm going to go in with Havoc, which is the lightest taupe from the top row. I'm just tapping it off just a hair. These palettes have been out for a while, so that's the only reason I'm not holding them up. I just wanted to try them out for the ranking video, and I figured I would film it. So I am going to get a different brush because those all look dirty enough that I don't want to tempt. I'm going to go in with 17th Century, which is the shimmer on the top right, if you're looking down on the palette. There's 2 shimmers. This one looks a little more cool toned. The one called Candle is a light, looks a little warmer undertoned. So that's the only reason I'm picking this one. This one's very pigmented. The one on the Star Wars palette was not as pigmented as this. But I've also never swatched these palettes. Never touched them. They came in and they went right into the mix, into the, you know, my shelf. So, okay. I'm going to go in with a little bit of glitter glue. And this didn't, you saw how quick, like that didn't take me hardly any time. And this is the M. I've been saying this for a while. I need to go on Morphe's website and buy another, because this is the only brush I use for this. And Morphe claims that they're, you know, they just closed their brick and mortar stores. They're not going away. They're still going to be online, but sometimes that can be the start of, you know, sometimes they don't recover. So I probably need to order, if this brush still exists, 1 or 2 more, just because I've had this forever and it will eventually poop out on me. I'm going to go... I could do orange and purple, or I could do green and purple. I'm inclined to do the green. So I'm going to go in with Brew Another Batch, which is the second row. It's the middle shade. There's another green in the palette, but it looks like it's one of those like matte with shimmer. Sequence shade, I think is what they call them. And I don't necessarily... once in a while, I will do a matte lid, because those sequence shades, as far as I'm concerned, are matte, because when you start blending them, you'll lose the sparkle. Although placing it on the lid like this with some glitter primer, you could retain sparkle. Now, I'm not going to go as far as I usually do, just because green and purple do not blend together easily. you can get some muddying. So I'm leaving a space, and I just went in with my finger in Wicked Ways, which is the purple shimmer. I'm going to put this down with my finger, and I'm going to bring it over into the green, and then I'll try and work a little bit with the brush. But this can alleviate, because I'm not having to move it around as much. Yeah, these are colors that they look good next to each other, but when you start blending, you can get some muddying, not always, so you just want to be careful. And I'm just kind of going in where the green meets the purple, and I think I might go in with the brush just to add some more. There we go. It seemed a little sheer, but that looks, I'm okay with that blend right there. So that's the only issue. And then we'll do the same, like these are pretty dark shimmers. I'm going to go in with 17th Century again, which is the color we used up here. And I'm going to put that on the inner corner, and I'm going to bring it up a little bit just to lighten that up towards the front, and that's it. Okay, so my little bitty Jessup brush, and Jessup you can get on Amazon. I don't know if they have their own website. I've never investigated that. I always just order them off of Amazon. So I went up with a little bit of the black, and then we're going to go in with the purple and observe, but it's the only matte purple shade. And then maybe that brush that I used for my eyebrows. And it's a Morphe brush. I think this is one of the Jeffree Star. Yeah. It's a JS6. I think all of the brushes from those two collections that he did, I have both of them. I think those were all existing brushes. I don't think they were brand new. So if you like any of the Jeffree Star brushes I used, just take off the JS and pretend it's an M, because I don't think he created brand new brushes. I don't believe, if memory serves. And I'm just going back in with Havoc, which was the lightest taupe shade. I think he just picked out ones he liked and then made them look pink and pretty. So, because I don't believe that they still have his collabs. It's been a while since I've been on Morphe's website, but I believe they were all existing brushes, so you can get them, just not in the pink. Okay, so I'm going to move you back to the front, and we'll discuss. So we used both palettes. Now, I would normally put like a pencil in my waterline on both and mascara. I'm not 100% that I'm going to keep this makeup on, so I didn't do that, but I would normally put like a half lash and mascara and all that. So just on first impressions, I like both of these. I will say this one seems a little bit more pigmented just in the shades that I used, but the Star Wars ones seem to have the most pigment out of all the palettes. Like initial, like bam, which there's good and bad with that. Like I said, if you're like not a skilled like eyeshadow applier or like blender, sometimes that can be a little trickier because you're getting more pigment and can take longer to blend out. So something that takes, like this built on itself, so I was able to get the purple where I wanted it. And purple can be a trickier shade to formulate. It's not bad by any means. Like every shade that I used in here was good. Again, these two shades are similar. This one's a little bit warmer undertone. This is a little cooler. This is the one that we used. It doesn't annoy me as much as this having the two silvers in it, but they don't even look like different to me in the pan. I mean, this one may be a hair darker. I'm not really sure why there's two. But anyway, they both worked fine and they're pretty. I liked this shade. I liked all the shimmers in here were nice that I used. So yeah, I don't have any complaints about those. I'm glad that I used them. I like both of the looks that we have going on here. Very, very different from one another, but I do like them. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought. Do you guys have these? Did you guys get these when they came out? How do you like them? Leave me those comments down below. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Again, make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. I am going to be doing a Colourpop ranking video. That'll be the next video that goes up after this. So definitely check that out. And yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And hopefully I'll see you in another video. Bye, everybody.